Howdy, boys and girls, and welcome back. It is college football's week 11, and therefore it logically follows that this is week 11 of the Carla and Crappy Show. I am Crappy. I'm up here in Pittsburgh. Where it finally feels like fall. Feels like fall. It's awesome. I love it. It looks beautiful. Carla,
yes,
is in Nashville.
I am.
How's it look and feel down there?
I'm wearing a vest. That tells you a vest and a scarf. Like,
okay,
we're in fall over here.
It's no longer 90 degrees.
It's no longer 90 degrees. No, actually today it was the high in like around 54, 55, and kind of drizzly.
I like it.
Yeah.
Like it. I mean, not the drizzly, but that works. That works.
Yeah. Just enough that you wanted to go out and get a mid-afternoon coffee and I'm hunkered down at home with a lovely East Tennessee cider.
Nice.
Thanks, Gypsy Circus, for sending your lovely beverages to Nashville because this is delicious.
Just briefly, in stuff we will get into, Ohio State fans may need to switch to something stronger than beer for the rest of the season, which is what I've done. Thanks to the folks at Wild Turkey and the delicious rye whiskey they make. That's a nice Manhattan. We will begin, as we often do, with our just one thing. Carla, what is a thing that stuck out to you as you go through the past weekend in college football?
So I survived election night by not watching anything election coverage. I watched college basketball all night. Which was fun.
Yes,
we were following along. I mean, that's not to say that I wasn't paying attention to what was happening, but we had college basketball on the TV, and husband and I were keeping track of election returns via the New York Times and Twitter and all the online sources. So it was actually a much more pleasant way to spend election night.
Okay.
So because of that, I actually got to watch for the first time this year the rankings show, which is always a hot mess when they do it at Madison Square Garden. They try to do the show in between the two games. I know. Basketball was great, but they can't hear each other on the set, and you can tell because they're screaming over each other. And that's not normally something that they do on the ranking show. But the whole panel was just screaming over each other because Madison Square Garden is loud and they can't hear each other.
The show's usually actually well done because there's a lot of the actual discussion. About the merits of the picks and all this stuff, and if you're having to shout at each other, that's something's going to be lost in the translation there.
Yeah, it just doesn't work. But anyhow, that's not really where I was getting at. My one thing this week was actually the rankings, and I'm sure everybody has heard them by now because it's probably Thursday or Friday when you're listening to this, and it's Wednesday now as we're recording. Nothing out of the ordinary in the top six. Exactly what you would have expected the committee to do: Bama, Clemson, Notre Dame, Michigan, Oklahoma. Yeah, I know. Which is where my quibble is, because based on past experiences with the committee and the phrases that we keep hearing come up year after year are body of work and impression as to where they are at this point in the season. Right? Those are the two things that we hear the committee say all the time. Based on the college football that I watched last weekend, and trust me, I watched a lot of it, I don't agree with the committee's rankings this week.
Okay.
Based on body of work and current status of the team, the eyeball test that I have seen over last weekend, Bama clear number one, not even close.
Right.
Clemson number two, still very, very impressive. Like we said last week, they're still 1-2, a clear echelon above everybody else in the rankings.
Yep.
However, in my personal rankings, I have Michigan 3, Georgia 4, Notre Dame 5, Oklahoma 6. And that's based on what they did last weekend. Michigan's win over Penn State was dominant.
Yeah, it was.
Start to finish dominant. Penn State hung in there, 14 points. You kept thinking they might come back. And then, when the pick six, I shut the game off. I just watching it happen.
At that point, there's no other reason.
Game's over. Georgia, super impressive in that win over Kentucky. They led that game start to finish. Everything, they look like they're back in their primary form. Notre Dame struggled again against Northwestern, and they can't keep doing this. Body of work, Michigan and Georgia have a stronger strength of schedule, and they look more impressive on the field right now than Notre Dame or Oklahoma, which
Mhm.
had to, work hard to be a good Texas Tech team, but still
Right.
they had to work a lot harder than they probably should have to win that game, especially when Tech was down to their backup quarterback.
Mhm.
Um, I and Bama and Georgia works itself out, right?
Mhm.
Because they're going to play each other.
Yeah.
So, committee, do the right thing. Get Notre Dame out of the top 4. Right
But
now,
this
they
is, I mean,
deserve to be there.
this is what we've talked about all season, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Notre Dame gets the benefit of the doubt because of the Golden Dome and touchdown Jesus and all the other stuff. They get the benefit of the doubt because they are Notre Dame.
Yep.
And this is my big issue with the Irish, since the BCS, when they had the special finaglings to get Notre Dame in if they just hit a certain number. If it doesn't matter, I don't think it matters if Notre Dame, hits a certain number of wins in the season. They're going to get in, and it's going to be at the detriment of a team that is playing better, that has a better resume, that is playing better at the moment.
Yep.
Whether that's Michigan or Georgia, it's hard to say at this point. But if someone doesn't beat Notre Dame, they're going to have one of those 4 spots. So I'm with you there, and especially with the team in Ann Arbor, they have looked really impressive recently, which is leading to me to drink whiskey. Okay.
Okay, so what was your one thing? Not undone.
Briefly, my one thing is happening right now as we're touchdown. Holy shit! I'm watching my Bobcats play our number 1 rival. We're at Miami tonight. We're taping this on Wednesday night. OU was down 3 scores at halftime. They have come back. They're within extra point. We'll put them within a field goal of winning this game, but they need 1 more possession. That's a beautiful touchdown pass by Nathan O'Rourke. Wow. So currently, if I'm distracted, it's because I'm watching the end of this game as well as taping us. Extra point is good. Miami 30, OU 28 with 2:24 left in Yager Stadium in Oxford, Ohio. We will see how that.
Lots of time in action.
Yeah, that's plenty of time. This is OU does have the best the offense in the conference, so we'll see how it goes. I did not wear green for this game.
But you're wearing the Maxim flag.
I have my Maxim flag shirt on, and we'll get to the reason for the no green thing in a little bit. And that's going to be painfully obvious. Before we get there, let's give AJ a shot. The Grupo de Cinco. AJ, go ahead.
Hey everybody, it's your old buddy AJ here with this week's Group of 5 report. We're off the Pac-12. It's a mess this year. Wazoo's awesome. Just watch Wazoo. They're the only ones that matter. Everybody else, including USC, is garbage. But we're going to get into this week's Group of 5 report. And we're starting Friday night, 10:15 p.m. live from the grocery store in Boise. I guess, I don't know. I don't think that's the actual nickname for the stadium, but it's at Albertson Stadium. Fresno at Boise. Fresno State's a 2.5-point favorite. Fresno's good. I mean, Fresno is legit good. Boise's also good. Not as good as Boise normally is. So this should be a super fun game to watch. These are 2 teams. Fresno is currently first in the Mountain West Division. Boise is 7-2 and second in the Mountain West Mountain Division. They're both really efficient teams. Fairly evenly matched, and that 2.5-point spread sounds about right. Fresno is a very, very good team. I think they're better than Boise, but hey, it's on the blue turf. You can't sleep on the blue turf. Do not do that. We're going to move into Saturday, going to 4 p.m., and we are going down to Statesboro, y'all, because it is Troy, Georgia Southern. I'm sorry, that's a 1 p.m. game, not a 4 p.m. game. Troy at Georgia Southern. The option is back. Georgia Southern has been real bad the past few years. And they're mostly back. Troy and Georgia Southern, these are 1-2 in the Sun Belt East. They're both 7-2. I mean, these two teams don't get any shine. This game is on ESPN Plus, and yet is between two teams that are 7-2. This game should actually be really, really good. Troy's favored by 1.5. So this is a really, really evenly matched game. I highly recommend you watch this game. Sun Belt football is actually good. G5 football in general is actually really good. And these are two teams that are really they're battling for first in the Sun Belt East. So watch that game at 1 p.m. And then we are going to slide on down to 7 p.m. Temple at Houston. Houston 5-point favorite. The total over-under on this game is 69.5. So this game should get real pointy. DeAndre King is fantastic to watch. But Houston, what happened last week? You got the brakes beaten off of you by Southern Methodist. So I'm interested to see how this works. And how this game kind of plays out. Temple took UCF to the brink. There were a lot of people who don't want UCF to do anything nice to lose that game, and then they would have just been completely out of the college football playoff conversation. CBS Sports on this one. Temple and Houston, they're probably going to put up a ton of points. The Temple lost to UCF 52-40 last week. Houston's last game was 45-31. So these two teams know how to score points. DeAndre King is incredible, and you should watch him. So keep an eye out for that game. And we'll go, all right, fine. We will dip into the Pac-12 if we must. 10:30 p.m., Cal's playing USC. Cal has a defense, everybody. I didn't think I'd ever say that. USC's only favored by 5 over Cal. Just pointing that out. USC doesn't really have a quarterback. They've had a number of guys try to play quarterback at USC this year. None of them have really worked out. Clay Helton's on the hot seat, maybe? Question mark. 10:30 p.m., that could be one of those games where you look at it in the morning because nobody's actually going to stay up and watch that game. Everybody's going to look at that game and go, really? Really? That happened? That was as close as it was? Cal won? What? And no one's going to really care after that. So this has been your Group of 5 / sort of kind of Pac-12 report. I'm your buddy AJ. I'll keep you up to date on the Group of 5 games because they're the games that actually matter for people who really, really, really enjoy football. Thanks.
Awesome, AJ. Thank you very much. We have a lot of football to talk about. But before we get to the actual football to talk about, we should, because we started this and because we sort of touched on this already. Oh God, could somebody just beat Notre Dame already? If the Carla and Crappy Show had a laugh track, we would insert it here because Notre Dame is playing Florida State. Carla, any chance at all?
Nope.
No.
Next.
There are just a few top 25 on top 25 matchups this weekend. Miami has recovered an onside kick. Two of them, we're going to mention a couple of them in our game breakdowns. Two of them aren't worth really mentioning, and those are number 16 Mississippi State at number 1 Alabama, and number 2 Clemson at number 17 Boston College. Briefly, Carla, any thoughts?
The first game, Mississippi State on the road at Alabama. Last year the game was really, really close. Maybe that's a glimmer of hope. And Alabama is coming off of that game against LSU, and they got banged up pretty good in that game. So maybe that's a glimmer of hope for Mississippi State. But no, the line on this game is insane. And Bama's playing at home for the first time in like almost a month. So yeah, the Tide's gonna roll big in this one, I think. Clemson, Boston College. Be wary of Clemson on the road in the Northeast.
Sure.
And I have in my notes, Syracuse 2017. Last time that Clemson was up in this area of the country, Syracuse stunned them. Do I think that's going to happen this year? No, I don't. Boston College gives up a lot on defense, and Clemson casually put up 77 on Louisville. So, no, Bama wins, Clemson wins.
I think I wrote down is like, if you're a fan of a college football team that isn't Alabama or Clemson and you're headed to the playoffs, I think it's probably best that, you'd be happy with a holiday trip, someplace warm, someplace fun, maybe sell your tickets to an Alabama or Clemson fan and make enough money to buy a nice dinner and a few drinks out. Because if you're not a fan of one of those two teams, you're not going to go any further than that. And that's look. There's always you never say never, but from how things look right now, Alabama is head and shoulders above everybody. Clemson has improved to the point in the last couple of weeks that it's they are getting very close. That's going to be the only competition that we really want to see in the playoff, and that should happen in the final game. So, if you're a fan of Mississippi State or Boston College, you're excited about this weekend. Great. Maybe simmer down because this year it's not happening. It's not going to happen. And speaking of not happening, let's get to the first of our full games here today. Number 10 Ohio State at number 18 Michigan State. Ohio State is favored by 3.5. I'm going to let you go first, Carla, because I have deep emotions about this game, and I will discuss.
I thought you might, so I don't have a ton of notes on this game. So here's a glimmer of hope for your Buckeyes. Sparty's not great on pass defense.
Right.
Yay. So that's a good thing because holy cow, they're real good on run defense. They're the top rush defense in the country, and that's not even close. They are the Alabama of rush defense. They're number 1 in the country, only allowing 71 yards per game. Number 2 is Texas A&M, and they give up 81 yards per game. A 10 yards per game difference separating 1 and 2. That's huge. Especially 11 weeks into the season. That all being said, on paper, you would think that Ohio State should win this game, but the holy cow, there's a lot of question marks because, you gave up 450 yards to Nebraska last week. The same thing we've been talking about for the last 2 weeks. Ohio State, can you tackle? That's, and that's a common, we both see that. I say the same thing about Penn State. Penn State, can you tackle? Last week, the answer for both of our teams was no, we can't. But at least you got the win. The run game is going to get stifled with going up against this Michigan State defense. So it's going to come down to Dwayne Haskins. Can Dwayne Haskins shoulder the offense so that Ohio State can score enough? On paper, if you look at everything, then you lean Ohio State in this game. But I know you have a lot of thoughts on this, so I'm going to let you break this down a bit.
I don't think there's. I didn't look at stats. I didn't look at numbers. I'm familiar with both teams and what they've done to this point. In all the time we've been doing this show, I have never picked Ohio State to lose. And some of that is just sort of a bravado. I like to project because I'm having fun. I'm a fan, and that's sort of my role on the show. Regardless of but also, regardless of what the opponent's situation, there's also usually a component of honesty in there. I feel like there is. I look at a game and I feel like there's a path to win, even in games like, say, the 2014 playoff run, where it seems unlikely. So here is the thing. I don't see anything like that this weekend. And that's watching a game in person a week ago, watching games over the last couple weeks on TV, and where I can have the chance to watch replays and go back and stuff. The running game was better last weekend against Nebraska. Marginal improvement in the running game is not going to work this weekend, right? Because we're playing the best rush defense in the country. I didn't see anything watching the game against Nebraska that would lead me to believe that Ohio State can win on the road against Michigan State, or worse at this point. And this is why the whiskey. I don't. If you take that Ohio State team that I watched last weekend, put them up against the Michigan team that beat Penn State last weekend, I'm not sure that game's even all that competitive. Even if it's in Columbus. We've talked about personnel with Ohio State and some of the issues. I think I keep coming back to this problem that started when Urban came off his suspension. And I think the thing here is that Urban is done in Columbus after this season. hopefully it's because he's won out in the regular season and he can sort of gracefully step away. As I look at things right now, unless something changes, I see Ohio State losing 2 more games, finishing 9-3, and Urban getting fired. I hope I'm wrong, but my gut feeling about this game, based on what I've seen the last couple of weeks, is that Ohio State goes to East Lansing and loses. That maybe there's a game to recover against Maryland, and then you got to play Michigan, and that does not set up well. So we will see. We will see how that goes. I hope I'm wrong. But that's my pick. I see Sparty winning this game. Next up, we have unranked Oklahoma State against number 6 Oklahoma. Oklahoma's favored by 20, which seems kind of silly, but I don't know, Carla, what do you think about this one?
Yeah, well, the number that struck me in this game was the fact that the over/under is 79. Take the over. I still say take the over because it's Big 12 and nobody can play defense in the Big 12. I see last week's game between West Virginia and Texas, right. Which was just silly fun and quite possibly the most fun game of the weekend. But anyway,
until this weekend. Until
this weekend, yes. So Oklahoma State is probably the most inconsistent team in the Big 12 this year. Inconsistent, not inconsistent. Inconsistent is not a word. Oklahoma State in their last 4 games lost to Iowa State, lost to Kansas State, beat Texas, and then lost to Baylor. A team with 2 completely different personalities. And the big difference here is that Oklahoma State is, quite frankly, undisciplined. The number of penalty yards that they rack up per game is absurd. They had 133 yards in penalties last week against Baylor, and they're averaging 80 yards per game in penalties. That's even in games that they win.
Right.
That's not going to work against an Oklahoma team that, for the most part, has been pretty disciplined. But here's the fun thing about Oklahoma is, they won the game against Texas Tech last week, but they struggled, and allowed Texas Tech to score a bunch of points. So they fired their defensive coordinator. So it's officially the end of the Stoops era at Oklahoma.
That's a silly thing to do in the Big 12. Just don't fire your defensive coordinator. Just figure out how to score more. I mean, come on.
Do you need a defensive coordinator in the Big 12? I mean, that's really important.
Great question.
Have 2 offensive coordinators. That's all that matters. So, let's see what happens with Oklahoma. I mean, it's going to be a bunch of points scored. This is going to be absolutely silly. The only thing that I wish was that this game was at night because I love Bedlam at night. Like, that's just like,
that'd be fun.
It's an afternoon game. Oklahoma should win this game. They've been more consistent across the board this season. Right. Oklahoma State just really can't figure out what they're doing consistently. Oklahoma should win this game. Take the over. Oklahoma might beat the over itself. It's hard to tell, but this is a silly, fun game. Keep it on the flip if you like watching touchdowns.
Right. My assessment of this game is fairly brief. If you're concerned about playoff implications and all that stuff, yes, Oklahoma is in the running for one of the sacrificial lamb slots. That would play in the semifinal against Alabama or Clemson. But don't watch that game for that reason. Watch this game because it's going to be fun. As in, it's going to be like 52-45 fun. As in, both the Cowboys and the Sooners are giving up nearly 400 yards and 30 points a game.
Yeah.
As in the aforementioned over/under, and boy, that feels light. 79 points feels light. I will say it's going to be tighter than the spread. The 20-point spread in this game is ridiculous. I think that's light by a pretty wide margin. But Oklahoma is going to win what I am calling the shooty-outiest of all Power 5 shootouts of the year. And that alone is why you should watch this. It's just going to be insane. And we go from 79 point over under to Auburn at Georgia. Number 24 Auburn at number 5 Georgia. Georgia's favored by 2 touchdowns. It's not the SEC of old where you score 6-3, but this game is not. I don't think it could be entertaining in maybe a different way, right?
Yeah, I think so. And Georgia can put up points.
Yes.
But Auburn's got a pretty good defense, and so I think you'll see the Georgia offense tempered a little bit in this game. Although they do have one thing going for them, and that's playing at home. You move this game to Auburn, and you've got a completely different feel to this game.
Yes. True.
Auburn is coming into this game, and they're a little bit off kilter. They're sitting at 6-3, still in a decent spot to get a decent bowl game, but they're kind of out of the playoff picture altogether. They're not ranked. But gosh, wouldn't Auburn like to play spoiler again this year? Because they've done it once already.
No question.
They were able to go in there and knock off LSU pretty convincingly. And, that essentially, after LSU lost last week to Alabama, that pretty much ended LSU's hopes of the playoff, where we stand right now, unless more chaos happens, which could still happen. But Auburn likes playing this role of spoiler. See, kick six. See, this is a role that Auburn is used to playing. And add to the fact that Auburn's coming into this game with a chip on its shoulder after losing the SEC title game to Georgia last year. So you've got to believe this is a team that's going to be very fired up in this game. The challenge that Auburn has in this game is the fact that they're just flat out not running the ball all that well. They're relying a lot on Jarrett Stidham, which, Jarrett Stidham has a lot of experience playing really well, and he's going to surpass 2,000 yards on the season during this game. So he's actually putting up better numbers right now than Jake Fromm. I take it by the look on your face that Ohio just lost.
Just lost. Had one crack at a long pass at the end of the game and couldn't get complete.
Bummer.
First time in 5 years we lost Miami, so we're good. We're good.
Okay. That was
it could still be Marshall, and I'll be happy with that too.
I wish everybody could see. That was fun watching you. Great. But unfortunately, you're gonna end up seeing me talking, so never mind. So anyhow, back to Auburn. So Jarrett Stidham has a lot of experience going to surpass Jake Fromm this weekend. 2,000 yards on the season, but their passing numbers offensively are literally identical between the two teams. I think Georgia is the better team here. Gus Malzahn has been on the hot seat, but let's talk about ending all of that conversation, because do you know what his buyout is? If Auburn fires him this year, if Auburn fires Gus Malzahn, they have to pay him $32 million.
Oh, I didn't see that.
So all this talk about Gus Malzahn being on the hot seat.
So Gus is like, whatever.
Yeah, stop. It's not happening. Auburn's not firing Gus Malzahn. He's going to sit in that contract until 2024, and fans are going to like it. Damn it. That's really the way his contract was written. So it really doesn't matter what happens in this game for Auburn. They're going to have Malzahn for the foreseeable future. Georgia's the better team. They have to win this game if they want a shot at the playoff. They have to enter the SEC title game with just that one loss. Otherwise, their playoff hopes are over. Regardless of what happens in the SEC title game, I think. So Georgia's going to be motivated in this game, playing at home. They're going to win the game. But the spread on this game doesn't make any sense either. I think Auburn's going to keep it close. But I think Georgia is able to pull this one out.
Okay. Remember when Auburn thumped Washington open the season, and there was open discussion about whether or not the War Damn Tiger Eagles might give Alabama a run for its money when it got to November?
I do. I remember that quite well.
I remember that too, and mostly because I actually said such things out loud, perhaps on this very show. We've gone from that to Alabama being 6-3, and I'm still I was not aware of the staggering buyout number, but I did note that Gus got the always encouraging vote of confidence from his athletic director this week. Perhaps with the $32 million check kind of hovering over that. That's not as ominous as it might be elsewhere. Right. But still, Georgia's trajectory has changed a little bit this season as well. Although I think they've stuck more closely to the script that we expected them to follow. So the Bulldogs are in the position right now to be a second SEC team in the playoff if something bizarre should happen to one of the teams in front of them, like say Notre Dame. I would caution, if Georgia, if the Bulldogs think they can coast through this game, they could find themselves in some trouble, because there is a good Auburn team in there someplace.
Yeah.
We've seen plenty of evidence that of that this season. But if they show up ready to play at home, I think Georgia wins this. Maybe not by 14, but fairly comfortably. I think that's the difference between the two teams. Boys and girls, you can watch the Carla and Crappy Show for the duration of the college football season, which doesn't have a whole lot left. If you're searching Carla and Crappy Show on YouTube or Facebook, if you prefer to have Carla and Crappy in your skull, you will find the podcast version at Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, and TuneIn, as well as on your favorite social channels where we offer you guys plenty of reminders. If you like the show, please rate and review. If you don't, mind your own damn business. Carla, any final thoughts?
2 very quick things.
Sure.
Games that we didn't talk about.
Things we did not talk about.
Texas on the road at Texas Tech. The over-under on that game is 63.5. That feels light. Nice. And this is a Texas team reeling. Lost on 2-point conversion that I mentioned to West Virginia, to the gambling Holgerson, which is always fun. Texas Tech starting quarterback might be done for the year, which is a sad story for him. He suffered a relapse of his collapsed lung that he had suffered in the offseason. But Texas Tech gave Oklahoma a run for its money with its backup quarterback last weekend. So this game should be silly fun. Keep this one kind of on your radars. I still think that's take the over, regardless of who plays quarterback for Texas Tech. And just like Sparty is making you drink, Wisconsin is making this Penn State fan drink.
That's not a comfortable game.
That's not a comfortable game. And actually, I can't believe I am saying this. I wish the game was in Wisconsin, because Penn State is playing better on the road this season. They are playing at home in Beaver Stadium. It's going to be a cold game. That had not occurred to me, but that's absolutely correct. Yeah. This is a nail biter game for more reasons than just one, and one of them is because the game's going to be closed. The other one's going to be because it's really cold. Penn State needs to win this game to have a shot. Whoever loses this game will probably have a bowl game pre-Christmas.
Yeah, you're right.
There's some prestige on the line here.
Absolutely. In that vein, I mean, if Ohio State can win 2 of the last 3, there's still maybe a New Year's Six bowl.
You could back into the Rose Bowl.
Well, yeah, and that sets up well. Even with if you assume wins the next 2 weeks and the loss to Michigan, Michigan's in the championship, in the playoff, and then Ohio State gets the Rose Bowl, but. As I said, I am not super optimistic, but we will see how that goes, because as you guys know, anything can happen in the fabulous world of college football, which is why we do this every week for however many years it's been. Carla, thank you very much.
Yep. Cheers and bottoms up, maybe.
Oh, man. And guys, enjoy the football this weekend. You can watch me gritting my teeth on social media on Saturday afternoon, and then watch Bedlam, because that's going to be the most fun thing that's happened all season. You got to believe me here. Thank you guys for watching. We will see you back here next week.